Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this new Pokemon course. It is Pokemon Team Building 101. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Big Z. I've been playing Pokemon for competitively for about 6 months now, and normally I'm not the kind of person to where if I just start something, I don't assume that I'm a pro at it. But due to from many other Pokemon players, specifically VGC players, they told me that how impressive it is that I'm able to advance in such a short amount of time. And so I'd like to give a shout out to Wolfie Glick as his channel Wolfie VGC has actually helped me get improve myself a ton. And he actually has his own series, the Pokemon Academy, where it focuses on the basics of Pokemon, EVs and IVs, even how to compete, and then a team building guide. My problem with as far as the team building guides that are out on YouTube and on different platforms is that I believe they're not broad enough to where, I mean, they're just too broad to where they don't go into detail as far as every little thing. And that's where I'm coming in to getting those who are either a complete novice or those who are struggling with Pokemon VGC currently. And so, if you've seen Wolfie's, if you guys want to check out Wolfie's Pokemon Academy, feel free. It's on his channel, and there will maybe a lot of similar things that him and I may say. But again, he's an excellent, you know, teacher when it comes to Pokemon VGC, and I hope someday I can become as good as VGC as he is. And so let's go ahead and get started. So expectations of the class is, as these are all pre-recorded videos, nobody's expected to watch them or do them at a certain time. Watching these videos are strictly up to you guys, and so if you don't watch them, you don't learn, you don't get the extra information uh, that you may have not realized you needed. This is pretty much a class to where you're going to get out of it what you put into it. Um, you know, I'd say a lot of these early videos are going to be for pure novices, opposed to those who have an understanding. Like if you have an understanding of just Pokemon in general, you'll understand, like such as fire beats grass, grass beats water, and water beats fire. Just like if you've played any Pokemon game, the first three starters are fire, water, and grass, and your rival generally chooses the type that beats yours. And so, sorry about that, guys. And so, anyway, so let's go ahead and get into the lecture. So there are 18 different types. Every type has an advantage over another and is weak to another, and in some cases is completely immune. The only type to not have a super effectiveness against any other type is normal. Uh, but anyway, so let's go ahead and I am going to give you guys I am going to explain some history along the way. For instance, when Pokemon, in the first generation of Pokemon, it only had 15 types, with Steel, Dark, and Fairy not being a part of the Pokemon at all. After Generation 2, Steel and Dark type had become a thing, and I want to say it was Generation 5 or 6 that introduced the Fairy types. And so, every Pokemon has a weakness to some things, such as normal being weak to fighting, fighting being weak to flying, poison being weak to psychic, ground being weak to grass, rock being weak to water, bug being weak to fire, ghost being weak to ghost, uh, steel being weak to fire, fire being weak to water, water being weak to grass, grass being weak to fire, electric being weak to ground, psychic being weak to dark, ice being weak to fire, dark being weak to fighting, fairy being weak to steel. And so every type has a weakness to something. Some types have a completely immunity, so normal cannot attack ghost, just as ghost cannot attack normal. Um, let's see, flying. And fighting cannot attack ghost, but ghost can attack fighting. Uh, electric cannot attack ground, but ground can attack electric, and flying cannot attack. Ground cannot attack flying, but flying can attack ground, and then poison cannot attack steel, just like steel can attack. But steel can attack poison, and dragon cannot attack fairy, just as fairy cannot attack dragon. And so, every Pokemon has at least one type, with the exception of using the move Burnout, which we may cover in a later video, which makes your Pokemon typeless. But every Pokemon has at least one type. And other Pokemons have two types, but no more than two. These provide perks, and there's also disadvantages. For instance, an advantage to a Pokemon such as Gastrodon. So water is weak to electricity, but having that ground typing makes it completely immune to electric. But a drawback would be with grass being super effective against ground types and water types. Not only does it have a 2 times weakness, but it has a 4 times weakness as well. And so understanding your Pokemon's matchups, whether what it's super effective against and what it's super weak against, is going to benefit you a lot in the long run. Like you take a Pokemon like Tyranitar. That Pokemon has a 4 times weakness to fighting types, and then you take a Pokemon such as let's see here. Let's see. And then you take a Pokemon. Let's see here. You take a Pokemon that has a Rock and Steel type. It has a 0.25 weakness against normal types. And so everything has an advantage and disadvantage. As far as the Pokemon VGC, there's going to be a lot of Pokemon that are available, but just like there's a lot of Pokemon that are unavailable. And so every type has at least one legal Pokemon type. There are going to be different common types that different types that you're going to see that are going to be more common than others, such as you're going to find that fighting, fire, water, grass, and electric are going to be a lot more common than bug type. So let's get into it. So normal has a 1 times effectiveness against normal, which means it's neither weak nor strong. Normal is a 1 times against fighting type, and again, it's gonna have so I'm gonna refer to having 1 times type effectiveness considered is normal damage. So the normal type does normal damage to normal, fighting, flying, poison, ground, bug, fire, water, grass, electric, psychic, ice, dragon, dark, and fairy. The fighting type, I'm sorry, let's go ahead. So normal is going to be weak against, and instead of saying 1/2 times weak, I'm going to say is weak against rock and steel. And now normal, instead of saying it has a 0 effectiveness against, I'm going to say immune. So normal is immune to ghost. So now let's get into fighting. So, you know what? As instead of just explaining that, telling you what they're weak to, I'm gonna explain why. So, a normal person cannot smash a rock, and that's just the way things is. And a normal person cannot attack a ghost, as a ghost is you would go through the ghost. A normal person can beat steel, as steel is very hard, and so. Now, fighting types, let's go into fighting types. Fighting is twice as effective and is super effective against normal. And what that is, a normal person is not going to be able to really beat a person that, a fighting person is going to be stronger than a person who doesn't know how to fight. A fighting person is going to be equal to a fighting type. So a fighter is going to be is going to be normal against the ground type, as a fighter can hit the ground, but you know let's see. A fighter can hit fire and water. There's really no explanation on that, to be honest with you. Along with grass and electricity, and it can also hit a dragon. So, so a fighter can fight, just as I said before, can fight a normal person, and it's going to be more effective because when you know how to fight against someone who doesn't, you're generally going to have the advantage. A fighter is going to be someone that's if you can, a fighting type is gonna be able to smash rocks. That's what makes it different than a normal person. And if you can fight, you're gonna be able to break steel as well. So if you notice that both of the normal resistances, the Pokemon that resist normal types, the fighting types are super effective. And a person that can fight will be able to smash ice a lot easier. And an interesting type is against dark types. So uh, when you think of dark, you generally think of negative, and when you think of fighting types, you generally think of like, okay, someone knows how to fight. They know how to fight for the right thing. Fighting is going to be much more, is going to be effective against the dark. So fairy's interesting, and the way I'm going to put it is a fairy is generally going to be someone that trains someone who can fight, and so they're going to generally be able to beat them because they have magic and stuff. So now we got flying. So flying is going to be normal against the normal typing. Just because it's you take a bird and a normal person, and again against flying because they're on equal fields. Poison type just because flying has nothing really to do with poison. Then you got a ground, you just attack the ground. And then you got ghost. Some with it being some being normal won't be able to hit it, but a flying is not exactly normal. It's abnormal. Same thing with fire and water, psychic, ice, dragon, dark, and fairy. It's all the same. So flying is super effective against fighting because being able to have the high ground is really important. Bug types, a lot of birds eat bugs, so bugs can't really defend themselves. Grass, because a lot of flying will eat, a lot of flying Pokemon, eat a lot of birds eat grass. And so now flying isn't good against rock because knocking out two birds with one rock is a common thing. Steel, again, steel is going to be able to defend itself. It's going to be a lot harder for a bird to get. Electricity, electricity hits the highest thing in the sky, and birds fly high, so they're going to get struck by lightning. And so that is everything for that. So now poison types. So poison is going to be normal against the normal types, the fighting, the flying, the bug types, the fire, water, electric, psychic, ice, dragon, and dark. And so if they have a one-time, I'm not going to really get into an explanation because some of these matchups just doesn't make any sense to me personally. And so poison is going to be weak to poison because all you do is going to add more poison together, so you can't poison something that's already poisoned. Ground, so generally ground is going to be able to stop the poison from coming through as it's solid, just like rock. Ghost, you can't really poison something that's already dead. And so now for grass, so you can poison the grass as it'll kill the grass, such as weed killer. And so, and with fairy, poison can easily kill a fairy, which I guess you could use some kind of Disney reference. And then poison has no effect on steel, as steel is steel. So now let's look at ground. Ground is going to be normal against normal, fighting, ground, ghost, water, psychic, ice, dragon, dark, and fairy. It's going to be weak to bug because bugs can break into the ground and live, and then ground is not going to be effective against grass because the grass will grow through the ground. Ground does no damage to flying because when you're in the air, ground is on the ground and it can't go into the air. So next is rocks, which it's normal to normal types, poison, other rocks, ghost, water, grass, electric, psychic, dragon, dark, and fairy. It is super effective against flying because you can knock two birds out with one stone. super effective against bug because you can crush a bug. Against fire because rocks are gonna when you use rocks generally don't catch on fire. They're generally gonna put the fire out. And ice because you can crush ice with a rock. Um, and so right. So now we got into bug, and I know today's lecture may be a little bit boring just because a lot of these type matchups are pretty common, but again, this is for someone who a complete novice. And so now let's look at the bug types. So bugs are normal against normal types, ground, rock, and other bugs, water, electric, ice, and dragon. They're going to be weak to fighting because fighters can crush bugs, flying because the flying types can eat bugs, poison because poison can. So interesting. Poison is weak. Oops. Oh no. So bug will die from the poison. Sorry, I read that wrong. Bug is weak to goat. Let's see. Is weak to ghost just because I guess the ghost is dead. And steel because the steel a bug cannot penetrate steel, and if a bug tries to eat fire, the bug will die. And fairy because the fairy can destroy bugs, I guess, with magic. It is super effective against grass types because bugs eat grass. And I don't really understand psychic, but I guess psychic the bug can just mess with the psychic's mind or something. And then dark because bugs I guess can live in the shadows, I suppose. So now ghost. So now ghost type. So ghost do no damage to normal, just like normal does no damage to ghost. It's normal against fighting, flying, poison, ground, rock, and bug, water, electric, ice, and dragon. It's not too effective against dark because evilness. So I guess someone who's evil, uh, the a ghost isn't going to be able to mess with them. It is super effective against ghosts because ghosts generally can do only attack ghosts. Psychic types because uh, uh, I guess you could say a demon can enter a ghost's mind. So next we got steel. So steel actually has, I want to say, the most resistances out of all of them. So steel is going to be normal against normal, fighting, flying, poison, ground, bug and ghost, grass, psychic, dragon, and dark. It's going to be weak to other steel because steel is generally going to be able to defend against steel. Fire because fire can burn steel. Water because well, it's just water. Steel ain't going to really be able to do any damage. Electric because electric, I guess steel conducts electricity. It's super effective against rock because steel is a lot stronger than rock. Steel is a lot stronger than ice, and I guess steel can crush a fairy. It destroys the magic, I suppose. That's the only explanation I can think of. Next we got is fire. So fire is gonna be it's just gonna be even with normal fighting, flying, poison, and ground, uh, ghost, electric, psychic, dark, and fairy. It's not effective against rock because, again, rock puts out fires. It's not effective against other fire because fire can burn fire, which I think you could use. I think fire should be super effective against fire because you can use new fire to put out old fire. But I guess because fire just makes more fire stronger. Water because water puts out fire, and dragon's going to be able anything that's not a dragon is going to be able to resist the dragon. And a dragon's generally going to breathe fire. It's super effective against bugs because again, fire will burn bugs just like fire will burn steel. Fire will burn grass, and then fire will melt ice. Next is water, which it's going to be completely normal with normal fighting, flying, poison, and ground. Uh, bug, ghost, and steels. Electric, psychic, and ice, and dark and fairy. It's not effective against other water because all it is going to add more water. Grass because grass grows from water, and dragons are going to be able to be better than like water creatures. It's super effective against ground and rock because uh, water can travel through ground and it can actually move rocks if it's strong enough. Against fire because water puts out fire. Next is grass, and it's completely normal with normal and fighting types, ghost types, electric, psychic, and ice, and dark and fairy. It's not effective against flying because birds will eat grass, or poison because poison can kill the grass. Bug types because bugs will eat the grass. It's not good against steel because steel, I guess, grass won't be able to penetrate steel, and grass hits fire, fire will just burn it. And grass is not effective against grass because all it is grass or dragon. Grass is super effective against rock and ground because it'll grow through the ground and can grow through the rocks. And it's super effective against water because grass needs water to live. So electricity is normal to normal in fighting, poison, rock, bug, and ghost, steel and fire, um, psychic, and ice, dark, and fairy. It's not effective against other grass because grass is so low, so it won't be able to do much. It'll resist it. Or other electricity because all you'll have is more electricity, and dragon because dragon will resist it. It is super effective against flying because lightning strikes birds. And water because water is a conductor, and it does 0 damage to ground because grounding. So next we got psychic, which is normal to normal types, flying, ground, rock, bug, and ghost, fire, water, grass, electric, ice, dragon, and fairy. It steel resists a psychic, I guess because your mind can't get through the steel, and psychic resists psychic because you both, if you're using 2 brains, then hey, it'll generally not be able to. It'll be a lot harder. It won't be too effective. And so psychic is super effective against fighting types because mind over body, and then against poison because you can use your mind to cure the poison, and it's immune to dark, which means you can't play mind games with an evil person. So ice types is normal to normal, and fighting types, poison types, rock, bug and ghost, electric and psychic, and dark and fairy. It's not effective against steel because steel can crush ice, fire will melt ice, and ice goes into water will just make, I guess, more ice. Ice. You attack ice with ice. Ice is generally going to be, you're going to destroy your ice attacking the ice. Super effective against flying types because I guess because icicles in the sky can do a lot of damage. I suppose that's the only thing I can think of. Ground because ice can turn into snow and attack the ground. Ice can attack grass because grass can get frozen, and then ice will take out dragon because you can freeze a dragon. Next we got dragon. So dragon's going to be normal against everything except for steel, other dragon, and fairy. It's not effective against steel types, which I'm not sure why. It is super effective against other dragons, stating that the only thing that can really take down a dragon is another dragon. And then it has no effects on fairy, which a fairy generally being someone pure and good to take down the taking down the dragon. So darkness is going to be normal to everything except for fighting, ghost, psychic, dark, and fairy. Dark is weak to fighting because generally the good guy always takes down the darkness, and dark isn't good against dark because evil's not going to have a super effective damage against evil, and then dark is not good against fairy because a fairy will generally defeat the evil. It is super effective against ghosts because a dark person isn't afraid of the death, and dark is good against psychic because dark thoughts can easily corrupt the mind. Finally, we have fairy types. Boy, this has been a long lecture, and guys, thank y'all for sticking with me. We're almost done. So fairies is gonna be normal against normal types: flying, rock, ground, bug, ghost, water, grass, fire, psychic, ice, and fairy. It's not effective against poison because poison can really kill out a fairy. Or a steel because I guess a steel can beat fairy, or fire because a fire will resist a fairy's magic, I guess. It is super effective against a fighting type, which means a mythical creature is going to generally take out someone who's physically strong. And then dragon types, fairies are generally going to stop the evil dragon, and then fairies are going to take down the dark and stop the corrupted mind. So this has been so these are all the types, and really why I can try to give you guys an explanation of why I imagine they're effective and not, and why they're immune. But again, this was just for someone who is completely new to Pokemon and are just completely new um, and or have no idea the different type matchups, and so even though you can just go online, and a lot of it's common knowledge. Like, you're generally not going to use a fire type against water types, just like you're not going to use a just like you think that's really, or like you're not going to use, or like you're going to use fire against grass because fire is going to beat like the ground. Now, some things that could be tricky is like, oh, why can't a fire type take down a dragon, or like, why why is poison able to take down a fairy, or steel able to take down a fairy? So it's more so for things like that. But I'm glad we were able to jump into this, and I want you to, and this is what I want your y'all's homework to be. I want you to be able to not memorize the chart, but I want you to be so if you see a Pokemon type, I want you to guess what its weaknesses are. Preferably for now, we'll stick to just one type. So if you see a fire type, what is it going to be weak to? If you see a dragon type, what is it going to be weak to? And as you get better, take a look at a dual type, such as a Pokemon like Charizard, and take a Pokemon like Charizard, which is fire and flying, or a Pokemon like Gastrodon, which is water and ground. That way you'll just become naturally better at it. It'll become second nature, and when you're playing Pokemon, you'll instantly know what Pokemon to bring and what not to bring, and what moves to use. So this was a fairly short lecture. I didn't mean for you guys to be bored, and honestly, if you guys were bored and didn't want to watch the lecture, then hey, no, I completely understand it. But trust me, you guys are definitely gonna want to watch these videos and want to get just to get better at it. And again, we're starting completely from the beginning, from the complete novice. And I guess those of you who'd be watching this video aren't a complete novice. Uh, but for those of you who want to get into competitive Pokemon, you'll be able to watch this. And if you're thinking about wanting to get into Pokemon, this could be a great way to start, because types, I wouldn't say they're everything, but they are very important. Um, for them to, because I doubt people with a water type is going to attack water. But hey, I see things all the time, and so, but yeah, so your homework is to try to is to learn is just to be able to figure out what types will do certain damage against others, and so we'll try to get another. We'll try to. I'm gonna go ahead and attempt to get tomorrow's lesson planned out, and that way we'll be able to move on and proceed with the next lesson. And so, well, all right, guys, thank you so much for coming to this class. And I look forward to you guys into my next lecture. And definitely let's try to bring as many novices or people who just need help as much as they can into the video. Because if you watch it from the beginning to the end, I can promise you'll learn some things you may not realize that you needed to know, or you may learn some things that you thought were different. So, well, all right, guys. Your Professor Z is going to be leaving, and I'll see you guys in the next video. But make sure you hit that like, leave a comment, and subscribe, and to support the cause. And we'll see you guys later.